I would like to call to order the February 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Phelps-Clifton Springs School District. Pam, would you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the United States that stands under God, liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Lindsay Marino, board member.
Heather Rockefeller, board member.
Deb Gallagher, board member.
Matt Goodman, board member.
Carl Dubash, business administrator.
Nick Ganster, superintendent.
Tracy Altman, board member.
Pamela Mann, district clerk.
Okay, and skip over to the statement. Education. Members are volunteers. School operations. Members are reminded of members as members of our community. The whole community. Be safe.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, sorry about that. So I am going to be presenting on. You want to take care? You want to come up on up while I brag about you? Come on up, girl. Apologize, Mr. Moyer did the recommendation, but he wasn't feeling good, so he's not here tonight. So he was worried about it. So I said I would happily take over, and I am honored to take over for you. So at the reading, pushes into many small groups for her own consistency and support the rules and expectations of the classroom. She does an exceptional job maintaining a productive learning environment in her own classroom and is incredibly passionate about all the students she works with. She establishes strong and positive relationships for her students and is a huge advocate for them. On occasion, Emily provides supports in classroom when an emergency substitute is needed, more often than we'd like sometimes. She always does an excellent job in these situations with classroom and with those students. Ms. Mishler's position requires her to utilize a wide range of instructional strategies and techniques And she's often on above and beyond to trainings to find out more about her reading and helping me during our meetings understand what our kids need as well. Much of Emily's success comes from utilizing multiple techniques, which she then shares with the classroom teachers and in many cases, and administrators. In her reading intervention, to implement multiple strategies to assist her students to achieve optimal growth. She constantly tracks and is reporting out on that growth to both the team and the parents. It's easy to observe Emily using the knowledge during instructional support team meetings to provide ideas to to struggling learners. Ms. Mishler plays an important role in our meetings. Many parent-teacher conferences. She actually went above and beyond this year and actually scheduled her own meetings with parents offered intervention with, did individual meetings. A lot of times interventionists with the teacher, but she thought it was that important for one of our youngest learners in first grade. For giving her enough time. The parents were incredibly appreciative because it is complicated, all that's going on for our young readers. She encourages parental communication and sets up professional rapport with stakeholders. Emily is in a unique position of working with students with a focus on increasing their reading skills. Literacy has the potential to impact all areas of academic success. Because of this, Emily must be in constant contact with teachers to provide strategies to support her students. She has expertise in communicating with teachers and finding ways to help succeed in all academic areas. We can highly recommend Emily Mishler for tenure without reservation or concern. So, yes, absolutely. Thank you. We're grateful for you. Yes.
Appointment is presented based upon the recommendation of the superintendent.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the tenure appointment as presented, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations. All right, and on to presentation. So Mid-Lakes Theater Experience.
Push the icon.
Okay, perfect. My name is Kyra Guest. I'm a senior, and I'm the president of Drama Club, and I've been doing Mid-Lakes Theater since freshman year.
I'm Austin Herman. I'm a junior. I'm vice president of the Drama Club, and I've been a part of this program for years.
Mid-Lakes Theater has been given us a lot of opportunities. 2 shows a year. We do a fall show, play, and then we do a we're doing a little bit this year, so you guys should, yeah. And one of the great opportunities that it's given me is I've been able to student direct for the past 2 fall plays that we've done, which has shown me that I want to direct older, so yeah.
One thing that this program's given me is when I first did my first show, I really loved the program, and I'm like, you know what? I want to do this for the rest of my life, no matter. Never mind. But this program's given me a lot, and I'm very grateful for it.
Okay. Anything to say?
Nick, may I take your keyboard instead? Yep, thank you. All right, folks, thank you, everybody. Welcome to what is the first of our 3 budget presentations or budget workshops by law prior to a May budget hearing and a school budget vote that once again takes place in May. For our first budget presentation, here's a brief agenda of some of the things we'll be discussing. We're going to take a look at the governor's executive budget and talk about what it means for Phelps-Clifton Springs in terms of foundation aid. We're going to talk about some of our budgetary stressors. Where do we see some of our biggest expenses as we look to the 25-26 school year? One of those expenses is healthcare, and a very specific portion of healthcare. So we're going to take a snapshot at the Finger Lakes Area School Health Plan, specifically look at the Medicare portion of that school health plan. We're going to take a look at our reserves, the portion of reserves we use for revenue to close our budget gaps, but we're also going to take a look at our capital and bus purchase reserves. The reason that's important is because every year, year after year, we also have the community vote on bus purchases. We're going to look at our budget goals as a whole, and we're going to talk about, while there are many similarities year after year, every year brings some new twists. So we're going to talk about what's different compared to previous years in terms of this year's budget goals, but yes, you're going to see many similarities in there as well. We're going to visit our tax levy calculation that has to be submitted to the comptroller's office by March 1st, and we're going to look at our history over a 10 or a 12-year snapshot. Finally, we'll talk about specifically how many buses we need, and we'll talk about our ballot propositions and next steps of the work that's going to be done between today and the March 17th second budget presentation. So, Nick?
So it's been an interesting year when it comes down to the formulation of the governor's executive budget. If you remember about a year ago, she had tasked the Rockefeller Institute with performing a foundation aid study, and the Rockefeller Institute engaged in that study, and they pointed out several issues with the foundation aid formula. Some of those issues that were pointed out were consistent with some of the political agenda items from the governor's office, and some of them actually were not. So superintendents and school administrators across the state were actually very pleased that it was a balanced report on how foundation aid was being doled out across the state in terms of really a genuine, here are the concerns. And it wasn't politicized as much as folks anticipated. The curious thing is at this point, with our first run of state aid numbers from this year's executive budget, there haven't been many major changes in that formula. Now, with that said, what we did see across the state is approximately a 2% foundation aid increase for all districts. Now, that's not 100% true because there were some districts that received foundation aid increases greater than 2%. Mid-Lakes falls into the group that received the 2% increase. And when we saw that at the district office, we were actually pleased because we were fully expecting at the very least to have a flat increase. In other words, no increase from last year whatsoever. So receiving the 2% increase was welcome news. And that 2% increase amounts to $414,353 more than we received last year. And Carl's going to bring you through some of the foundation aid history over the last, I think, about 4 or 5 years. So, Carl, thanks. Go for it.
So as we look at this slide, in terms of the foundation aid that Phelps-Clifton Spring has received, 22-23 was the first year that Phelps-Clifton received their first of the 50% catch-up foundation aid, because this district was historically underfunded. The formula said we deserved X amount of money, but historically we always received less than that amount of money in terms of foundation aid. We received the first 50% allocation in terms of our full restoration of foundation aid during 22-23. That number was the $1.332 million. The following year, the state built in a CPI factor in addition to the 50%, in addition to some other metrics related to poverty rates across the school. We received a hefty amount of $3.4 million. Last year, there was an increase in our extraordinary needs count, specifically dealing with our special education students and our ENL students. We received $1.2 million. This year, Nick just referenced the number 414,000. Now, I mentioned as I visit the budget goals later in this presentation, you're going to see a lot of similarities, but you're going to see a unique difference. For the last 2 years, we've been talking about two things. One, federal funds sunsetting. How are we going to keep some of our staffing levels when federal funds sunset? We were able to do that because, once again, getting that $3.4 million helped us plan for the future. Along the way, we also, last year, one of the budget goals was plan for a negative budget outlook. We were fully anticipating this year seeing a $0 increase in foundation aid. Instead, we've got $414,000, but we also knew that going into this budget year, it was a matter of tightening the budget. Because the budget, unless we reach into reserves significantly more, or unless we levy significantly more in taxes, that budget-to-budget increase is going to be much smaller than it is the last few years. And I just wanted to stop here and make sure that made sense to everyone. By the way, I'll say this, and I'll try to repeat myself over the next couple of presentations. The May budget hearing is the one time the community gets to ask questions and we get to have a dialogue back and forth. In these budget presentations, if you're thinking of a question, please interrupt or stop me at any time. It would be a great compliment to me if you have any questions, and just stop me and ask away. So that's the money that the state is giving us in terms of an increase in foundation aid. But what are some of our stressors? Right now, if I just ran salaries across our district, those salaries range to the tune of a combined $18 million. When I look at about a 3.5 or a 3.75% increase to many of those salaries, right there is a healthy portion, or every portion of that $650,000 increase from year over year, keeping the same staffing levels and making sure folks get their contractual increase. Healthcare rates. So our Finger Lakes Area School Health Plan rate increase was just approved by the Board of Directors last week. Our base plan is the high deductible plan. The high deductible plan is going to go up by 14.3%. Now, for folks that are not familiar with the high deductible plan, there's a premium and there's what's called a HSA, or a healthcare savings account contribution. When you look at the family plan next year for a high deductible plan, I want to point out that this plan was